Felix Blohberger, Grandmaster from Austria. A talent, if I may still say so, because you're not only. How old are you, actually?
I'm 22, so I would say
22.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm already too old to
Long
be called a
past.
talent.
It's over already.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, you know a lot about chess, obviously, and you made a complete repertoire for the very nice move Knight f3. It's a course which has two volumes, and we will take a little look about at that. But what does this mean to the viewer? What is the Reti after all, and what are fianchetto systems, and why did you choose this opening?
Yeah, I first of all I chose the this opening for my course because it's actually one of my favorite openings, and I've played it for many years myself, and I see many people struggling with the fact that opening preparation is dominated by computers, and I think that this course serves nicely as an alternative to all of the heavily analyzed opening variations. And the Reti, if you start with knight f3, if you start your game with knight f3, you have a lot of flexibility, and you're not obligated to go into these engine lines. And therefore, I think it's kind of a fresh breeze in the whole market when it comes to opening preparation.
Yeah, and it's one of the most popular moves after e4, d4, and c4. Obviously, it is all equally often played by grandmasters and all levels. Talking about all levels, uh, can you honestly tell for whom is this course meant to be? Is it for the absolute beginner who have never played Knight f3, or is it even for some title player who is advanced in those variations and wants to learn a little tweaks, a little bit more about this?
Yeah, great question. I would like to say that it's for everyone. I have to say that I myself played this course before it was released. I played basically all of the variations, and after it got released, I started playing it even more because now I trust the variations even more because I analyze them pretty well. But so yeah, it's definitely enough for grandmasters as well to play the course. But I think it is also quite beginner friendly. I at least hope so that I managed to explain all the different move orders and key ideas. That was very important for me to also go into the middle game and try to explain all of the strategic concepts there. So I would like to say that the course is targeted for basically everyone.
Excellent. All right. All right. So this is a game against no, it's a living legend. It's Alexander Motylev. He was European champion once, and he was in the 2,700 ranks, I think. At least
Mhm.
I'm almost certain. So
Yeah.
you had to face him. Which opening did you choose? I have a wild guess.
Of course, I had to play Knight of Three. There was no better opportunity than this game to deploy my repertoire. So that's what I went for. And yeah, my opponent played d5. So this is analyzed in the volume two of the course, where black usually opts for more classical setups with d5 or c5.
Mhm.
And yeah, here g3 is kind of the starting position of where all the fun happens. And here, very recently, black has started to implement many different moves like knight d7, knight c6. Uh, and as we see in the game, also b6, which was played by Motylev. So this is not so easy for white to know all of these systems that well. And that brings me back to what I've also said earlier, is that here I try to find fairly easy systems here which don't require a lot of memorization, because I think it's not entirely possible for humans to memorize all of the sidelines until move
Sure.
20. So yeah, that's what I hope to do in that course.
Mhm.
So he did play b6, which was played by Magnus Carlsen also fairly recently. And the idea is just that black wants to put the bishop to b7. And whenever white goes c4, he intends to capture here. And then the bishop on b7 kind of aims to neutralize the white's usually very active bishop on g2. Bishop g2 is what I played, bishop b7. And here is kind of the first thing to remember, which is that it's quite accurate for white to start with c4 and not with castle. The point is white sets up a small trap. If black takes on c4, which happened in the game after knight a3, if black continues to play very logically with, let's say, knight f6, knight takes c4 and e6, black is actually already in quite some trouble, since after knight c e5, white has this very nasty threat of knight takes f7, followed by a discovery with knight g5, for example. After bishop e7, white is already winning the game, since after knight f7, king f7, knight g5, white just picks up the bishop on b7, and on top of that, black's king is very weak. So this is kind of already where things could go very, very wrong for black pretty early in the game. But my opponent, of course, didn't fall for that. He went knight d7, which kind of now stops this idea with knight d5. But still, this is analyzed in the course as well. And after queen a4, which was, I think it was already a novelty when I gave it in the course. The point is that knight ce5 is coming, and white has some pressure with the pin. And on top of that, knight c6 is also an idea, just winning the bishop pair.
Excellent.
So yeah, that happened in the game, and after short castle knight c6, I managed to pick up the bishop pair. He went queen e8, so I will win either of the bishops. Either he will take on c6, or I managed to take on e7. And after b3, I think around here, c5, bishop e2, my course ended, stating that white does have a small pressure. It's probably not that much. But the funny thing is here, even though the position is objectively close to equality, already after a couple of moves, I was actually winning in the game against Alexander Motylev. So it does, again, yeah, it doesn't really mean that the position, only if it looks harmless. There is always some dynamic involved in the positions I recommend usually.
Perfect.
And things started to go really wrong for him. I kind of concluded my analysis here with the point white wants to go d4, opening up the position for the two bishops, and white will keep like a small advantage. And that's basically exactly what happened. He went rook f8 to prepare e5, but I anyway went d4. And after cd4, queen d4, e5, queen h4, I really unleashed my bishop pair here. The bishop on b2 later became really strong. And after bishop a6, rook fe1, rook ac8, queen a5. Now I actually had already a very large advantage, since after knight c5, queen a3, both the pawn on e5 are hanging, and I'm threatening b4 as well. Removing the knight on c5 when the bishop on a6 would be hanging. So I already had close to a winning advantage here. Didn't manage to convert it after all. But yeah, I have to say I was pretty happy with how the opening stage in that game went.
So for you at home, now you know it all, or at least when you have the chess-based training course, then you know it all. Knight f3 is very powerful. It has a lot of variations, and Felix is really emphasizing playing it himself so often and very successful too. So it's worth checking it out, I would say. Thanks a lot, Felix.